have consciousness of our fasts and stay away from our desires, not only food and water. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to do even more. There's 2 Jum'ahs left. Subhanallah, time goes and passes, and every week and every year and every month, it's a reminder as to how volatile our life is, how loose, liquid our existence and time passes by. Subhanallah. And it's always a point of reflection. Always a point of reflection. Always a point of reflection. To just think how fast time goes. Just think. Time flies, and there's no word that's faster than flying. I don't know if there is. If there would be, we would use it for time, wouldn't we? Because time does more than flying. It just goes. And we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the tawfiq and the ability and the guidance to make the best of the little time that we have on this earth. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Today I want to talk about a topic that everyone is trying to achieve, inshallah, which is al-birr, piety. Piety. We all want to be pious. We all want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept us in higher levels of Jannah. We all want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us as far away from Jahannam as possible. And you can get there by birri wa taqwa. Piety and God consciousness. Very loose translations of the word. With regards to al-birr, piety, many a times we put on a mask of piety because our emotions want us to really go to Jannah. We don't want to go to hellfire at all. We really want to go to Jannah. But subhanallah, as a result, we end up putting on a mask of piety because we believe piety is looking a certain way, talking a certain way, walking a certain way, sitting and lying a certain way. We have these connotations and we do it. Oh, I got to be humble. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Pious, Allah, pious. Beard, pious. Allah. Allahu Akbar. I can't move. Pious. We have certain qualities about piety that we think is pious. And we try to do as much of it as possible and convince ourselves that we are pious. But if you don't know the true qualities of a pious person, you are not pious. On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell you, you're not pious. You're going to say, wait, I am. I looked down when I walked. I walked so humbly. I did this, I did that. Well, I told you a piety was in the Quran. Did you open it? Did you read it? Oh yeah. Doesn't a pious person open the Quran? Oh, I open the Quran too. I open the Quran, I read it all the time. People think that's pious. I'm reading Quran all day, from day to night, from morning to night, just I'm so pious. I'm not saying these are not good deeds. They're good deeds, of course. I don't want people to think they're not good deeds. They're good deeds. But the question is, what is the definition of piety given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And what definitions we have concocted ourselves in our minds thinking this is pious? And how to bridge the gap, and what's right, what's wrong. That's the purpose of the khutbah today, because Ramadan is supposed to help you get there. Ramadan is supposed to remove the vices as an individual, we talked about last week, as a society, to help you get there. Piety is birr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. This is ayah number 177 of Surah Al-Baqarah. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ. He starts with piety, what piety is not. Let's go through it. لَيْسَ الْبِرَّ أَن تُوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ قِبَلَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. Piety is not you facing the east or the west. Meaning, to give you a rough example, like, the Qibla. Which way is the Qibla? This way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you really don't know, you can be a little bit okay. It's not that You don't have to be like 43 degrees northeast specifically. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that. If you try your best, you're okay. But sometimes people get to the nitty gritty of it. Let's say, for example, I have to be 43 degrees. Or sometimes people, the beard has to be specifically this much. The hand has to be specifically like this. I'm pious because I'm doing these things. You see my point? ليس البر هذا هو that's not piety. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ. So what is bir? First thing he mentions is 5 things Allah subhanahu mentions. First is the iman of the person. وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَالْمَلَائِكَةِ وَالْكِتَابِ وَالنَّبِيِّينَ. Those who have iman and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the kitab and the nabi and the anbiya and the 5 things and the day of judgment and the 6 pillars of iman basically. Those who have this, first of all, he's a Muslim. First condition of piety, he's a Muslim. Because this makes you a Muslim, correct? If someone does not believe in the day of judgment, stuff like that, he's not a pious person. He can't go to Jannah. It doesn't matter how many good actions he has. Make sense? That's not a pious. The first quality, you got to be Muslim. Second quality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Subhanallah, wallahi I couldn't make this up. It's in the Quran. Second quality, Ya Allah. You know what it is? وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. The one who gives his wealth despite his love for it. Ya Allah. Ya Allah. Ya Allah. The one who gives his wealth despite his love for it. Ya akhi. If you look at the ayah carefully, that's the first quality mentioned for piety. Basic is being a Muslim. What's the next? First quality. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. مش وَآتَ الْمَالَ فقط. It's not just giving wealth. Giving wealth despite his love for it. Meaning if you give wealth and you have extra, meaning like when you give away clothes that you don't need, that's not piety. When you have clothes that you love, you wear it all the time. Someone comes and compliments you, that's a nice Apple Watch. I'm going to put my watch in my pocket before someone compliments it. I'm joking. Wallah, if you want, I'll give it to you. Can you give it that? Can you give that then? Rasul would do that. Someone complimented it. He'd just take it out and give it to the person. He had zero connection with it in his heart. He said, وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. To complement this, another ayah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرِّ. You will never, ever reach piety. We all want it, but you don't want to do the grind work. You will never reach it, ever. حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. Again, repeat it. Until you give from what you love. Another ayah that complements this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Surah Al-Insan, about the qualities of the people of Jannah. I'm going to give you right now an opportunity to practice this. I know you love your space and you want to spread out and just maybe take a nap and relax in this khutbah. I want you to constrict yourself a little bit and move forward so we can accommodate everyone in the back, inshallah. Everyone move forward a little bit. If there's any spaces, fill them. There are people standing up already, have no space to sit. Insha'Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be pious. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. Ya Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Continuing the khutbah. The third ayah that complements this is Surah Al-Insan, about the qualities of people of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the people of Jannah, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. They used to feed people despite their love for it. So it's not just wealth, it's also food and many other things. The point is, what you love, get rid of it. If you can do that, then you have piety because you love Allah more. You love the akhirah more. And that's a testimony to that. When you do that, when you just give what you love. That's why the word sadaqah comes from the word sidq, truthfulness. Because it's a testimony to where your heart is. Non-Muslims say this. Forget Muslims, non-Muslims say this. If you want to know where a person's heart is, check his pocket, where he's spending most of his money. You will know where the person's heart is. Make sense? I'm sure you've heard it before. First quality. وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. To who? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a few things. ذَوِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ وَالسَّائِلِينَ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ. Multiple categories. People closest to you. Then more, then more, then more. Now here's one more thing I want to point out. How do you know when people are going through a tough time? If you don't care about them. If you don't ask them how you doing. If you don't see them, if you don't meet them. If you don't talk to them. You won't know. Fine, I want to give away my wealth. I want to give away something. I want to help people. Tamam? But you don't even know what the problems he's going through because you never talk to him. This ayah is also talking about you talking to other people. Knowing about the problems of other people. Caring about other people. Just the basic tenet is just be a caring, kind, loving individual. هذه هو المسلم. This is a Muslim. What did Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? I can go on and on this topic. Ya akhi, may Allah make us like that. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Medina for the first time. He said, أفشوا السلام وأطعموا الطعام وصلوا الأرحام صلوا بالليل والناس نيام تدخل جنة بسلام. Spread salam to everyone. Greet everyone. Talk to everyone. Don't fight everyone. Spread a message of peace. أفشوا السلام وأطعموا الطعام. Feed people. وصلوا الأرحام. Join relationships. Don't break it. People are fighting. You're allowed to lie even just to join relationships. وصلوا بالليل والناس نيام. Pray at night time when everyone is sleeping. You'll enter Jannah. First khutbah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Quba. Last point on this concept of being selfless and caring. It can be a whole khutbah in of itself, multiple khutbahs. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. Everyone knows the surah. Go home and read it, the tafsir of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala contrasts وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى. Nighttime, daytime, two opposites. Can they mix? No. In the rest of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compliments the people of Jannah and the people of Jahannam. Can they mix? No. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the qualities of the people of Jannah and the people of Jahannam. Who are these people? And why they can't mix. And He mentions the qualities, and the qualities are literally the opposite. First quality of the people of Jannah. Let's read it, because I don't want to misquote. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى فَأَمَّا مَنْ أَعْطَى. The one who gives. وَاتَّقَى, and has taqwa of Allah. وَصَدَّقَ بِالْحُسْنَى, and he has iman and yaqeen in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah will give him back. I'm doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. Path to Jannah for him, easy. Second people. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلْ. First quality, the one who holds back. وَاسْتَغْنَى. He thinks he's self-sufficient. This is my money. You don't have the quality of depending on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will give it back. This is Allah's product. Allah give it to me. I'm giving it back to you. This is my money. أستغنى, me. وَأَمَّا مَنْ بَخِلْ وَاسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى. And he denies the akhirah and the day of judgment. You see, you don't have to deny like, oh, it doesn't exist. If you don't give as a Muslim, you're implying that you don't have that much yaqeen in the reward of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that make sense? I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Because I don't have time to get deep into it. As you can see the contracts. The one who is selfless, the one who is selfish. Jannah, Jahannam. First quality of a person who's pious is the one who cares about the other people. Asks them about how's life. Wants to help other people. And then he has the ability to help other people. And he helps other people by giving what he loves. First quality. Question for you. In this month of Ramadan, I'm sure you want to reach that level of piety. But I'm also sure that you haven't been able to. I'm also sure that you haven't been able to. And you're like, I should have done. What is 2 weeks gone by? I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I should be pushing myself more. I'll do something different tomorrow. But you don't know what it is. You're going to go repeat the same schedule that you repeated for the last 2 weeks. You might pray more taraweeh. You prayed 4 rak'ah, now you're going to pray 8 rak'ah. You might eat healthier in iftar or suhoor, because Allah says, "Kulu min rizqi halan tayyiba." Eat halal and tayyib. So I'm going to eat healthy to feel. These are not things that make you pious. First quality, how much did you spend? How much did you donate? How much did you help other people? How much did you ask other people about them? How much work did you do in the community? You should ask yourself this question. Because that's what's going to get you to piety. You will not get there until you do that. First quality. Second quality. First we said Muslim. Second, the one who gives. Third one, إقامة الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة. He establishes salah and he gives zakah. So that's 2, 3, 4. Right? Muslim, giving, and then salah, and then zakah. 4. There's 2 more. The next thing is وَالْمُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِهِمْ إِذَا عَاهَدُوا. They fulfill their promise when they make a promise. Oh, you can write books on this. I am bad at it too. Working towards it. May Allah make us amongst those. Ameen. The idea here is, if you can't fulfill your promise to an individual, to another human being, how are you going to fulfill the promise you made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ. From amongst the believers, they're men. Not everyone's a man. I mean, you are, but you get the point. مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ رِجَالٌ. From amongst the believers, they're men. Who are they? صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ. They're true to the promise they made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. That promise we always talk about, which is establishing the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and living up to it. My point is this, at the individual, at our level here. Fulfilling a promise requires sacrifice. It's not easy. Making a promise is very easy. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. How long does that take? I'll do it. 3 words, less than a second. I'll be there at 9 o'clock. I'll be there at 9 o'clock. 6 words. How easy is to say that, but how hard is it to implement it? It requires sacrifice. This concept of you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran about fulfilling a promise, in Surah An-Nur, you think that is small. تَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. But is huge in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَوْفُوا بِالْعُقُودِ. Fulfill your promises, a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is a huge deal in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Huge deal. But now, you as a Muslim need to know that. When you read the Quran often, you're like, whoa, breaking a promise, a big thing? I'm not going to do it anymore. You having this awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows you to put in the sacrifice so you can fulfill that promise. But if you don't have that awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the day of judgment, it's just a promise, the brother, it's okay. It's just a promise. It's just a promise. Piety, so far, in terms of actions, آتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ. The one who gives from what he loves. The one who establishes salah, gives zakah, fulfills his promises. And the last one, وَالصَّابِرِينَ فِي الْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَحِينَ الْبَأْسِ. Ya Allah. They have sabr. Sabr. 5 qualities. Giving. Salah. Zakah. Fulfilling promise. And they have sabr. Sabr. Where do you have sabr? في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس. 3 things. Read the tafsir of this ayah, please, if you really want to be pious. This is how you become pious. I don't have time enough to go into the khutbah, to go to this ayah and this khutbah. 177. Surah Al-Baqarah, 177, Ayatul Bir. Having patience in extreme poverty. Having patience in ba'sa. Ba'sa is والصابرين في البأساء والضراء. ضراء is physical hardship. وحين البأس is talking about jihad في سبيل الله. أولئك الذين صدقوا. These are the صديقين, the true صديقين. Allah says the نبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. The next after Nabi is Siddiq. These are those people. This is piety. Just a quick point about sabr. Again, I don't have time to go into the whole thing. Sabr is not just waiting for pizza. Sabr is you doing what you're supposed to do despite what you want to do. Despite what the society pressures you to do. Despite what your family pressures you to do. You're doing the right thing. Despite its hard nature, is huwa sabr. Make sense? There's different types of sabr. Ma'asiyah, bala. Having patience upon good deeds. What does that mean? You should do a good deed despite you not wanting to do it. Having patience against bad deeds, you're not doing a bad deed despite you wanting to do it. Make sense? That's hadi wa sabr. Doing the right thing, even though you have all these pressures against you, doing the right thing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding, allow us to be pious. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه فيا فوز المستغفرين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع المتقين والأبرار. الحمد لله وكفى وصلى الله وسلم على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيدنا وحبيبنا المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تلا. اللهم اجعلنا منهم يا الله. Ameen. I believe if there's some space, try to accommodate inshallah. There's 4 minutes remaining, so if you don't have to move like a lot. If there's some space, move forward, people can come in inshallah. I want to end off the khutbah with giving you a few stories. I don't have time for a few stories, maybe whatever I can, about the level of sacrifice the Sahaba had to do and they put in, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them the Sahaba. All of these are about sacrifice, by the way. Giving from what you love, having sabr, going against your desires, fulfilling a promise, all of that requires sacrifice. All of them requires sacrifice. So the question is, how much have you sacrificed from the beginning of Ramadan? And that will correlate exactly to how much taqwa and how much piety you have today. The more you sacrifice, more piety. Less you sacrifice, less piety. In what to sacrifice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the categories. Some of the examples of the sacrifice of Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'een. Uthman ibn Mad'un radhiyallahu anhu, he was a Sahabi. And as you know, Mecca was filled with gangs. And if you don't have a gang, you don't have protection. Anyone can just do anything they want to you. Uthman ibn Mad'un was disowned by his tribe, by his gang. And it was a very hostile environment, and he was disowned in that hostile environment. The father of Khalid ibn Walid, his name was Walid ibn Mughira. He came to him, he was a leader of a gang, of a tribe. I'm not going to use the tribe anymore to make you really understand the concept. I'm going to use the word gang. The father of Khalid ibn Walid comes to Uthman ibn Mad'un and he says, let me give you protection. He says, my protection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't need your protection. Few days later, he gets to an altercation, someone punches him so hard, he becomes blind from one eye. The father of Khalid ibn Walid comes to him, Walid ibn Mughira, he says, told you, you should have taken my protection. He says, Wallahi, my other eye is waiting and yearning until it also becomes blind in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bilal ibn Rabah, we know the story of Bilal ibn Rabah, but there's a different point that I want to mention here that you probably didn't hear before. Bilal ibn Rabah said one word when he was being tortured. Ahad. Ahad. One word. Explanation would be, oh, that's the only thing he could say. Ya akhi, really? Really, that's the only thing he could say? He couldn't say ah. He couldn't say Allah. Allah is easier than ahad. Ahad, ha has like a throat to it. He has to say the ha. Allah is much easier. La ilaha illallah, just the tongue moving. You don't even have to move your lips. La ilaha illallah. It's the easiest thing. That's the miracle, by the way, of La ilaha illallah, to be able to say it on your deathbed. Nothing is moving from your body, but your tongue can move. La ilaha illallah. May Allah make La ilaha illallah our last kalima. Allahumma ameen. He said ahad because he knew that would piss them off the most. This is the Sahaba. Mus'ab ibn Umair, radiyallahu anhu, ya Mus'ab. He was the richest He was, when we buy perfume from the store, you put the perfume on, 2 minutes later it's gone. Depending on how expensive it is, sometimes 2 hours later. But when Mus'ab ibn Umair would put on perfume, you would pass by a street, the whole street would smell like that perfume, and people know Mus'ab passed by here. That's a very expensive perfume. And he had loads of them. He was loaded. He never wore the same clothes twice in his life. He became Muslim. He didn't have a father. His mom was really strict on him, called his uncle. And they said, if you are going to be a Muslim, we're going to disown you. You don't belong to our household. Take off. Give us everything that you have. He gave everything. I don't want it. Riches to rags. Everything. Then they said, the clothes you're wearing, your clothes also ours. Take them off. He took them off. Everything. Everything is ours. Take it out. Ya akhi, imagine the humiliation he went through. From a person who is clothed in riches, to a person naked in the streets of Mecca being humiliated like that. What did he do? Did he give up Islam? No, of course not. He went to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, covered him. When he died, his coffin was so small. He didn't have coffin. There was no, when a shaheed dies, his coffin is his clothes. You don't put a new coffin on him. And you bury him wherever he dies. He died, I don't remember which battle. It was a fierce battle. And he didn't have enough clothes to, if you covered his top, bottom would be exposed. Cover his bottom, top would be exposed. Rasul started crying. Ya Mus'ab, from where to where did you go for the sake of Islam? Ya akhi, what have we done? What have we done in the last 15 days? What have we sacrificed? The love of dunya is just filled in the heart. May Allah forgive us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to really filter this love of dunya out. But when I say that, say Ameen. Understand that I'm not just saying, oh Allah, remove it. Ya Allah, remove it. Ya Allah, remove it. It's not going to be removed. You have to remove it. You have to remove it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help you. He will give you chances. Someone will come and ask you for your money. Wallahi, I'm not doing this for fundraiser. Wallahi, this is Islam. Someone will come and ask you for a donation. You made dua to Allah, Ya Allah, help me remove this love of dunya from my heart. Khalas. Next day you have an opportunity to help someone. What you going to do? Ya Allah, clean my heart, Ya Allah. What are you talking about? We have to do it. Take these steps. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding. أقول قولي هذا وقال الله تعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد عباد الله رحمكم الله كونوا عبادك الصالحين وأقم الصلاة